Good Monday morning and happy International Women's Day, a special day for us homeschool mamas where we're acknowledged. I see you. I recognize all that you do. I know it intimately. In fact, here's my plan for the week. I'd like to hear about yours. This is a little bit of a slower week even though the sun is coming up, and I'm just so glad to see the sun again. Kind of feels like we're coming out of the slump month. We're planning to do these things. I'm going to be watching a bunch of chicken videos with my son, even though we've had chickens, 4 or 5 times. It just feels like we can tap into the homestead spirit when we're watching videos about it, even when there's still a foot of snow on the ground. But it looks like stuff is melting outside, and over the last weekend, my husband was hanging tool racks on the garden fence so that I don't have to lose my garden tools as I'm doing my gardening stuff. And so that was kind of fun. That's a sign that spring is coming. And right behind me, you don't see it because it's one big mess, but I've got a homeschool table filled with seedling trays. And I've covered them up, and I've noticed that they do a lot better. They grow a lot faster if I have them black and dark and not exposed to sun. But 2 thoughts. One is this room is not used for much homeschooling. It's more homesteading right now. And we have all sorts of places in the house to do our learning or reading or projects, and it's not really in here. So do you need a homeschool room? No, not really. You need a storage place for all the books you might collect over the years. The other thing is my oldest daughter is taking a course of biology, a high school biology course, and is doing a botany test today. My oldest daughter at home. And so her botany test, all about plants, she has no interest in it. She's been sharing some things with me, and I've been learning the actual details as to why the plants are growing. And so, of course, I know this stuff intuitively because I've been gardening for a couple decades now, but hearing it from her perspective helps me understand why plants don't continue to grow, or why they get yellow, or why they get moldy. So it's been really interesting, again, learning from my homeschool kids. I spent the weekend a little bit, I was doing a bit of research on goats again. I'm not certain which goat breed I'm going to do, but my son and I are both really excited about taking care of goats, raising a few more chickens, expanding on my garden and fruit orchard. I've ordered another peach tree, and doing all those kinds of projects, things together. And I asked him at one point, would you actually be interested in doing veterinary medicine? And he said, yeah, maybe, because he's always researching that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see his interest expand in that direction. I would love to hear where your kids are at right now, what their interests are right now. I don't think that any of these particular interests that they have are locked in for a lifetime of a profession. Not necessarily, but maybe. I must say I was surprised when for many years I did Latin in my homeschool, and my oldest daughter, who wasn't interested in doing formal things or really being coerced into doing anything, now is actually taking her second year of university and is focusing on Latin. She tells me it is not a dead language. Of course, she would think that, right? So interesting to see how sometimes their interests expand into something that might be professional, and sometimes it's just an interest. And I'd like to hear what your kids' interests are right now and where they're at right now. So I didn't get to do a lot of walking. I was sharing on Friday about how I felt like I really need exercise, and I found it. And it isn't in the way that I'm accustomed to doing it, but I needed it. It is one of those things that you mama need to do every day, somehow, some way, because of this brain health. And I just really needed to burn off tension, build up the sweat again, and heavy breathing, that kind of thing. And so I found it in a HIIT exercise, high intensity interval training on a mat, a yoga mat. And if you know me, that is not my go-to. My go-to is like a little bit more outdoorsy, but outdoor right now means that I'm walking on ice, and I'm not even walking on a regular sidewalk happily. So I found it on a yoga mat, high intensity workout. which has been really good for my head. I really enjoy that. But so instead of going for my Sunday hike or my Sunday cross-country ski with my husband, instead we took a drive to a Tim Hortons, classic Canadian. Cheers! I don't actually like their coffee. I might be the only one. I'm not a double drinker. I don't want sugar in my coffee. I don't need sugar in my coffee. I do like a nice cappuccino, and I think I was trained well when I was doing some European traveling because I like really good coffee, and I can be grateful that where I live, I have amazing coffee shops. I haven't really been in a coffee shop for many months, but I got great coffee here. And so we went for a drive to Tim Hortons, got some chili and cornbread, and drove home. I don't know that my dog liked it as much as I like getting out of the house, but you do what you gotta do this year. I'm kind of hoping that we can all go back to normal soon, even though we personally don't have enough vaccinations to do so, but can't wait till that all kind of comes together, right? So what are you doing for yourself this week? How are you nurturing you? Here's a thought. Even though it can be really tricky to plan time in the day or in the week to do something specific to you, you could create a typical routine just for you. You know how we get into a routine as a homeschool family? You know that maybe at a certain time every day you typically wake up and then you get your breakfast together and maybe you do your read alouds and then you do your whatever. Y'all fill in the blank differently than maybe I do. But when you get into those routines, you can do it for you too. You can create routines where you think, you know, Sunday or Saturday is my relaxing bath day, if you're a bath kind of gal. Or, you know, Tuesdays are Taco Tuesdays, and I make tacos and I enjoy some quiet time. Whatever it is you like to do. Or Mani Mondays, you're doing your manicure, which, you know, I used to do. And now I homestead. But you can create specific days with specific activities that can remind you what it is you want to do to take care of you. And if that means you have a young family right now and you can only do this once a week, do it once a week. That's all you need. So what are you doing for you this week? Last thought I had was, this is the book that we're reading right now, my son and I, Black Beauty. It's an abridged version. Yeah, we could have the discussion about, do you read abridged or do you read the full versions? And I do both, and I don't really think that you have to do one or the other, but I think the reason a lot of these books that are so amazing are actually abridged is because they're so amazing and they want the stories to be shared with all the younger people. But just like the movie versus book versions, the abridged versions are never as good as the full version. But this is what we're reading right now. And I am reminded of a simple parenting tool that I shared with one of the homeschool moms last week. Sometimes, if you know anything about horses and training horses, which I don't know a lot, in fact, the only reason I know any is because I read a book about training horses and that was based in Prussia, Germany, somewhere like that, in the 1500s. They were training horses, and I know that it's not easy. I know that horses have real awareness and depth and intuition about people. They're very smart, and they know when they can be trained and they know when they cannot be trained, and they definitely know whether they're gonna show you respect or following you. And I was sharing with this mom that sometimes that's the best way that we can approach our kids too, is to be very aware that they're aware of how they're engaging us. Something that I have learned along the way as a parent, it absolutely is not something I got from day one. I just assumed that everything would all fall into place because I love my kids. And that's not really the way it works. So instead of thinking of yourself as an authoritarian parent, because that's kind of not the code word these days in parenting, it's that gentle parenting. Instead of thinking of yourself as either authoritarian or like following the child, you can think of you as the leader in the same way that you would be engaging a strong-headed, very incredibly engaged, very intuitive human being, whether they are 3 or 14. And so kind of take the role of that trainer and aware that you have an influence on them by how you're engaging, how you're showing up. Tricky one. I'm sharing this from a place where I know this is still a challenge for me because I have this balance in my mind. How do I show that we need to do these things, that we need to engage in a certain way? Or that this is what I want us to do, but not to be overbearing. And at the same time to honor them, but also to hear them and also to direct them. Tricky challenge. So I'd love your thoughts down below how you would engage that. But it really made me think that sometimes we can learn from our read-alouds how to engage our kids too. So on this happy International Women's Day, I just want to say that I honor you, I see you, I know all the work that you do. And from one homeschool mama to another, you got this, girlfriend.